beautiful Rasati out here in Singapore, and I'm so glad to be back here talking to you guys. Being able to actually open up and speak on the things that have been bothering me has actually been really cathartic for me, and I hope it's been helpful to you to hear the little bits and pieces that I've been struggling with myself. Not to say that, I don't know what to do, I do, but sometimes the doing of it is, well, it's simple, but it's never easy. And so this is the part where I wanted to be able to kind of break it down bit by bit for you. Because like I said, even though I did not record anything last year after my birthday, where I turned 40, I did write down things that I really wanted to make sure that I took note of. And in so doing, I still have quite the story to be able to reveal to you, and hopefully many, many lessons that will either in totality or bit by bit will actually help you kind of wrap your head around whatever it is that you may be struggling with, and maybe give you a ray of hope somewhere in the midst of all that so you can find your way out of it as well. Now, today I found myself running through my feed, and of course, I'm actually working on NFT, so I was looking through Rarable's Instagram post, and I saw that Johnny Depp has finally created his own NFT, and his quote is "Never fear truth," and I thought that was really, really relevant, especially with the projects that I've got going on today, my direction, my choice and direction for the way my content is moving, the way my podcast is growing. I wanted really to stop for a moment and kind of discuss this idea that I should never fear the truth. And mostly because that's basically what I did all of 2021. I was afraid of the truth. I did not want to say it out loud. I did not want to offend anybody. I didn't want to throw anyone under the bus. But these are things that actually need to be said out loud or written down so that people can understand that I don't magically suddenly become better. I don't magically suddenly, get from one place to another. There is a lot of walking, in most cases, trudging. There is a lot of sleepless nights. There's a lot of crying in corners. There's a lot of just emptiness and a feeling of, no one understands, no one knows any of this stuff, mostly because I couldn't say anything about it. But the fact that I had to kind of figure this out on my own is something that I want you guys to know, that yes, sometimes you may face this lack of options, if you will, but that it is actually possible to be able to walk through it by yourself. I've had so many conversations, actually arguments with my brother, where I'm like, you know what, I feel all by myself. I don't feel like anyone's got my back. No one's actually here to help me with anything. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm here. I'm helping you. I'm sending you money. I'm listening wherever I can. But what I actually mean is not the fact that he's able to support me or reach out and lend a hand or reach out and lend a shoulder. It's that most days I am alone in my head with my thoughts. I am alone in my head with my beliefs. I am alone in my head with all of my memories that want to replay each other over and over again. And of course, it's not the fun stuff, it's the ugly stuff. And when I find myself in those places, I usually do try and reach out to people. And sometimes, of course, they're busy, they got their own things going on, which I quickly learned then I can't depend on someone else picking me up out of my mood all the time. That's a big responsibility for another person, to be able to, be called at the drop of a hat, be ready to hold space for that other person while they're going through the midst of their own, nonsense, whatever it could be, to be able to listen and with a clear and open mind, give them advice to help them come out of whatever tailspin they happen to be finding themselves in. So a lot of times when I would call my brother, when in the beginning, when I'd call my brother, he wouldn't answer. I'd be like, see, this is more proof that no one has my back. No one's going to be there for me. And I would beat myself up and be like, see, I told you so. Why would you even reach out to these people? Eventually, I got to a place where I realized that I was kind of making up this story about why he wasn't able to be there for me. I was making it up as if he had a choice and he was choosing not to, and not considering the fact that he had 110,000 other things that he had to take care of. And so in that moment, it just so happened that he wasn't available. Now, I do teach my clients to make sure that, they have a couple of people that they can call in case one doesn't answer. A couple more people might be available. And so you don't put all that responsibility on one person. But eventually what I did was I only have like 2 people that I could call. And if either one of them was not available, then I would have to find a way to kind of break my own tailspin and find a way to find an equilibrium and kind of fly myself out of there. Now, back to this idea that, never fear truth. I felt like I was afraid to admit those things. I was afraid to admit that I had made up a story about why my brother wasn't around for me. I had made up a story about why, no one loved me. No one was, treating me well. I'm the bane of everyone's existence. Like all these terrible things that I was telling myself I had to express and then realize what I had just said out loud, and then really check myself and say, okay, is that actually the reality of things, or am I making up what I think is the truth? Something that actually justifies why I feel the way that I feel. And it comes down to your outlook on life as well. Like, if you really think that the world is a miserable, cold, unloving place, chances are every time you look out into the world, you find examples of what you think is true, and that reaffirms and justifies why you feel the way you feel. Now, if you were to change your outlook and say, I dare myself to see something loving, I am sure you will find experiences or examples of that as well, which would contradict your, underlying theory that the world is cold-hearted. But how many of us are willing to take that challenge? Most of us don't want to. Most of us want to stay in that place where we understand the way things are, because we've built up such a story about how the dynamics are, how the relationships work, and this is how it always happens, or it never happens this way. And those two extremes are always lies. There's no way that something always happens this way. There's no way something something can never happen a specific way. So there's always a gray area. There's always a middle ground. And for us to be open enough to see those things, I think is really, really important. So when I saw the post on Variable about, Johnny Depp, who's one of my favorite actors, talking about never fear truth, I had to really check myself and think about the fact that, you know what? I should not fear my truth. I should not be afraid to admit the stupid things that I sometimes think about or tell myself. I should not be afraid to admit the fact that I do not talk to myself like I love myself. I should be brave enough to tell the world exactly what goes on. So maybe in the process, one of you out there realizes, hey, I do that too. And what? That's not okay. Maybe I should change things. And if I could at least reach one person with this particular truth, then maybe it was worth it. I think that us being honest with ourselves usually takes an outside person, a third party, objective somebody, to be able to point out, hey, but is that really true? To ask the questions to guide us to get to that place where we really do question, okay, well, where did I get this idea? Who put that into my head? And part of that actually comes from me speaking to my daughter a lot. I try my very best not to turn to my mother when I'm trying to correct a behavior that my daughter is exhibiting. And a lot of times her face will change, her attitude will completely, plummet, and then I have to ask a bunch of questions, in the process of which I realize that she's telling herself what me correcting her means to her. Even though none of the words she's using comes out of my mouth, she's telling herself, well, I'm stupid and that's why my mom's correcting me. I'm not capable of learning, that's why my mom's correcting me. Whereas stupid and unteachable are not words that ever came out of my mouth. And so when I finally, and it was like pulling teeth, finally got her to admit exactly what she was telling herself, I was able to correct her and say, hey, I didn't say those things. Where did you get that idea from? Why are you telling yourself those things? Do you think that I would ever teach you or treat you like you're stupid and unteachable? Do you think that I would ever, waste my time if I really thought those things about you? Because that's not how I love, and that's not how I want you to go through life feeling. And even though I didn't say those things, you've created that story now, and I have to fight that story, not be myself. So part of this process allowed me to realize, hey, I do the same thing with other people. She's a child and she doesn't know any better, but hey, my inner child is also taking over sometimes, and I need to really check the stories that I'm telling myself. So with that being said, I love the fact that Johnny Depp is entering the NFT field, and he's got this particular theme running, never fear truth. And if I'm being honest, I feared it for so long that I never wanted anyone to know the terrible things that I thought. But I think it's time, and it's part of the reason I've decided to write a book and let you into my innermost thoughts. Open for judgment and criticism, of course, but I don't know. I don't know how else to create change without letting you guys in and really seeing who I am, what I'm about, and the things I struggle with as well, because I'm human just like you. I put on my pants just like you, one leg at a time. So with that being said, you guys, I hope this has been helpful. I hope you stay tuned for more episodes, and I'll catch you on the next one.